Nature, a force of beauty, life, and devastation. Throughout history, it has shown its duality in the most terrifying ways imaginable. Today, we delve into 5 of the deadliest natural disasters that reshaped not only the landscape but the course of human lives forever. Viewer discretion is advised. The Indian Ocean tsunami. It was the day after Christmas. For many, it was a time of celebration, rest, and family. But for millions of people living near the Indian Ocean, it became a nightmare of unimaginable proportions. The day began like any other. The sun rose over the Indian Ocean, casting its golden light on bustling coastal communities in countries like Indonesia, Thailand, India, and Sri Lanka. But beneath the ocean, deep within the Earth's crust, a disaster was brewing. At 7:58 a.m. local time, a 9.1 magnitude earthquake struck off the coast of Sumatra, Indonesia. It was one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. The Earth's crust shifted violently, releasing energy equivalent to 23,000 Hiroshima atomic bombs. This seismic event triggered a series of waves that would change the world forever. But the earthquake was only the beginning. The real horror came in the form of water. For many, the sight of the ocean pulling back was fascinating, even exciting. Few understood it was a deadly warning, a sign that a tsunami was on its way. When the waves arrived, they came with a ferocity that defied imagination. Walls of water, some as high as 100 feet, slammed into coastal towns and villages. Buildings were torn apart. Cars, boats, and even trains were swept away like toys. Indonesia was hit first and hardest. Banda Aceh, a city close to the earthquake's epicenter, was virtually annihilated. Over 167,000 people lost their lives there. But the tsunami didn't stop. It raced across the Indian Ocean at the speed of a jet plane, striking Thailand, Sri Lanka, India, and even reaching as far as Somalia. In Sri Lanka, trains packed with passengers were swept off their tracks. In Thailand, luxury resorts turned into death traps. Across 14 countries, the tsunami claimed the lives of over 230,000 people. Entire families were wiped out. For those who survived, the nightmare didn't end when the water receded. Disease, hunger, and the search for missing loved ones added to the agony. The world came together in an unprecedented show of solidarity. Billions of dollars in aid were sent to the affected regions. Communities rebuilt. But for the survivors, the scars remain. The memories of that day, of the loved ones they lost, are etched into their souls forever. The Mount Tambora eruption, April 10, 1815. April 10, 1815, a date seared into the pages of history. On that day, Mount Tambora, a seemingly majestic mountain on the Indonesian island of Sumbawa, unleashed its fury in a cataclysmic eruption. What followed was not just devastation on the island, but a ripple effect that plunged the entire planet into chaos at precisely 7 p.m. on April 10th. The mountain erupted with a force 10 times more powerful than the 1980 Mount St. Helens eruption. The explosion was so loud that it was heard over 1,200 miles away in Sumatra. Imagine hearing the earth scream across an entire continent. As incandescent ash and lava cascaded down its slopes, entire villages were obliterated in minutes. The pyroclastic flows, a deadly cocktail of searing gas, ash, and rock, scorched the land, killing tens of thousands instantly. But the true horror wasn't just the immediate destruction. It was what came after. The eruption spewed an estimated 160 cubic kilometers of ash and debris into the atmosphere, darkening skies and creating an ominous veil that encircled the globe. The sulfuric gases mixed with water vapor, forming a reflective haze that blocked sunlight. What followed was a climate catastrophe. A year with no summer. In 1816, temperatures plummeted worldwide. Frost killed crops in New England, famine swept through Europe, and torrential rains turned China's rice paddies into swamps. This wasn't just a bad year, it was apocalyptic. The death toll? Some say 10,000 perished directly in the eruption, but starvation, disease, and climate-related disasters pushed the number to over 80,000. And some historians argue the global impact may have claimed hundreds of thousands more. And yet, the Tambora eruption's legacy isn't just one of death. It's one of darkness, despair, and art. The strange, color-shifting sunsets inspired paintings like Turner's haunting landscapes. And the cold, dreary summer in Switzerland compelled Mary Shelley to write Frankenstein, a tale born from the shadows of Tambora's wrath. Today, Mount Tambora rests quietly, its caldera a gaping wound left by one of Earth's most violent tantrums. But don't be fooled by its tranquil appearance. Beneath its surface, the Earth still churns, and Tambora remains a reminder that nature's fury can shape, and even shatter, civilizations. The Great Chinese Famine 1959 to 1961. The famine wasn't caused by nature alone. Its roots lie deep in the soil of politics and ambition. In the late 1950s, Chairman Mao Zedong launched the Great Leap Forward, a campaign meant to transform China into a global superpower. The idea? Rapid industrialization and collectivization of agriculture. But the reality was something far darker. Farmers were forced into communal work units, their tools and resources seized. Traditional farming practices, honed over centuries, were abandoned for experimental methods. Villagers were told to melt down their tools for steel production, leaving them with nothing to till the fields. Crops rotted in the ground, and false reports of record harvests convinced the government that China was thriving, when, in truth, the people were starving. Imagine a world where food is both a memory and a mirage. Villagers ate tree bark, grass, and dirt to survive. There are stories of people boiling leather belts and shoes into thin, foul-smelling soups. But even this wasn't enough. Some turned to the unthinkable. Reports of cannibalism emerged, though such acts were whispered in fear and shame. In Hunan province, one mother was said to have killed and eaten her own son to survive. In another village, families made pacts to exchange children, ensuring they wouldn't eat their own flesh and blood. These were not acts of cruelty, they were acts of desperation. The government denied the famine, punishing anyone who dared speak out. Local officials inflated grain production numbers to avoid punishment, leading the state to seize even more food for export and urban consumption. And then there were the campaigns of destruction. Sparrows, accused of eating too much grain, were declared enemies of the state. A nationwide campaign to kill sparrows disrupted ecosystems, leading to plagues of locusts that devoured entire harvests. Nature itself became an unwitting accomplice in the tragedy. The death toll is staggering. Historians estimate that anywhere from 15 to 45 million people perished. Entire villages disappeared. In some areas, the death rate was so high that the survivors abandoned their homes, leaving the land to reclaim what once was theirs. The famine wasn't just about starvation. It was about the collapse of humanity itself. Families were torn apart, communities were decimated, and the bond of trust between the people and the state was shattered beyond repair. When the famine finally ended in 1961, the government never officially acknowledged the catastrophe. The records were buried, the voices silenced. But scars like these don't heal easily. Today, in rural China, the memory of those years lingers like a ghost, passed down through hushed stories, half-remembered truths, and the enduring hunger for answers. The Tangshan earthquake, a city shaken to its core and the haunting aftermath. At exactly 3:42 a.m. on July 28, 1976, the city of Tangshan, China, was reduced to rubble in just 23 seconds. This is not just a story about one of the deadliest earthquakes in history. It's about what many say lingered after the shaking stopped. A series of eerie phenomena that remain unexplained to this day. Tangshan was an industrial hub, a bustling city home to over 1 million people. But beneath its soil, forces were building that no one could have predicted, or did they? In the hours leading up to the disaster, animals in the city began behaving erratically. Dogs howled endlessly, chickens refused to roost. Even snakes, burrowed safely underground, were reported to have slithered out into the streets. Then came the quake, a catastrophic 7.6 magnitude event that leveled 85% of the city's buildings. Entire neighborhoods vanished. Over 240,000 people perished, though unofficial estimates suggest the death toll may have been much higher. But it wasn't just the earthquake that left its mark. Survivors began reporting strange occurrences as they sifted through the ruins. People claimed to hear cries and whispers coming from collapsed buildings long after all the survivors had been rescued. Rescue workers described an overwhelming feeling of being watched, even in areas believed to be deserted. One particularly chilling tale tells of a group of soldiers tasked with recovering bodies. As night fell, they reported seeing shadowy figures moving among the wreckage. When approached, these figures would vanish into thin air. In the weeks following the earthquake, locals spoke of a ghost train that could be heard at night. The sound of its whistle would cut through the darkness, growing louder and closer, yet no train ever arrived. Some believed it was the spirits of the departed, still trying to flee the city, trapped between worlds. Others thought it was a residual echo of the disaster itself, a phantom reminder of the lives lost. Officially, the Chinese government declared the disaster over and pushed forward with rebuilding. But some questions lingered. What do you think? Were the hauntings real, or just the product of a shattered city's grief? These disasters remind us of nature's unimaginable power. They're a haunting testament to our vulnerability. But they're also a call to action, to respect our planet and prepare for the unpredictable. Which of these stories chills you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more haunting tales and revelations. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe,